For nearly 25 years, the Pokemon anime has provided us with a wide array of characters. From Ash Ketchum and his diverse cast of traveling companions, to the numerous Pokemon they encounter. But there's also no shortage of villains in the Pokemon world, which raises the question, of all these baddies, who is truly the most vile and reprehensible? Welcome to Otaku Binge. Today, we're looking at Pokemon anime villains, evil to most evil. Now, before we begin, for this list, we'll be ranking these villains based on their actions and motives. We'll be starting with the least evil and working our way down to the very worst. So let's go over some rules. These villains had to have appeared in more than one episode of the Pokemon anime or in a movie. So those that were relegated to only one episode or a two-parter will not be included. Secondly, with a few exceptions, we will not be including Pokemon even if they played an antagonistic role. This is because Pokemon, for the most part, Pokemon are never truly evil, and the ways in which they act almost always depends on circumstances that are beyond their control. Though there are exceptions to this, which we will explore. Finally, we also won't be including the latest movie, Secrets of the Jungle, because it hasn't been released outside of Japan as of the writing of this script. With all that out of the way, let's begin, starting with the least evil and working our way down to the most appalling, ruthless, and vile. We have to start out with Molly Hale as our least evil villain. The 5-year-old daughter of a renowned professor, Molly's father disappears while researching the unknown, and she has no mother to be seen. Using the unknown's power, she asks for parents. They manage to take control of the legendary Entei and have it act as her father, as it's her favorite Pokemon from her storybook. And in turn, Entei hypnotizes Ash's mother into thinking that she's Molly's mother.
Can we all stay here forever?
The unknown then take over the area around her mansion with crystals, protecting her from the outside world, so no one would separate the three. However, Ash and friends find an opening, and Molly tries to stop them. Every time she would fall asleep, her dream world shows up around Ash and company, and she appears as a Pokemon trainer, a wish granted to her by the unknown. She defeats Brock and Misty battles her in order to divert her attention from Ash. Once Ash shows up to rescue his mother, she is left heartbroken. But after a brutal battle between Entei and Charizard, Molly decides to return to reality after seeing what her wishes were doing to those around her. This causes the unknown to spiral out of control, and as Entei sacrifices itself to drive them away, they bring back Molly's father in return. Molly has to be ranked the lowest on our list, because she's not evil at all. She's just a depressed little girl who wants a family but ends up going to extreme lengths to keep her family together. So how could you not feel bad for her? Next is the first exception to our no Pokemon rule, and that is Mewtwo. As a side note, the Mewtwo from the Genesect movie is a different one altogether, so we won't be talking about that one. Anyway, Mewtwo is created artificially by Team Rocket scientists after finding DNA of Mew. After realizing it was only an experiment, Mewtwo destroys the lab, and Giovanni convinces it to aid Team Rocket in their goal in conquering the world.
I see you as a valuable partner.
Tired of being used by Giovanni, it eventually escapes, develops a hatred of humans, and creates a castle at its birthplace on New Island. It later issues a challenge to Pokemon trainers and creates a storm as a test to see who could make it to New Island, Ash, Brock, and Misty included among 3 others. To prove the superiority of cloned Pokemon in comparison to trained ones, it uses its cloned Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise to destroy its competition, and clones the rest of the Pokemon in the vicinity too.
The hour of my vengeance draws near.
The clones, including Mewtwo, fight in a brutal battle that only stops when Ash turns to stone and is revived by the Pokemon's tears. This causes Mewtwo to have a change of heart and fly off with its clones to a new home. This home is revealed in Mewtwo Returns, where it frequently causes storms and even stops a bus from crashing to make the mountain as inaccessible as possible. Giovanni eventually finds them, but is thwarted by Ash and his friends. So why is Mewtwo placed this low? Because there are, well, 2 ways of looking at Mewtwo. In the English dub of the original Mewtwo Strikes Back, it fully intended to create the storm and was confident in its status as the strongest Pokemon. In the Japanese version and both versions of the CG remake, however, it's more insecure about its place in the world. and preferred having direct confrontation with humans and naturally born Pokemon as revenge, with the storm being more of a means to an end. The latter is closer to the Pokemon ethos, which is our justification for its placement. Another thing to add is that it also acts as a guardian to other Pokemon, whether those Pokemon are its clones in Mewtwo Returns, or the Pokemon on Cerro Island in its appearance in Pokemon Journeys. Next is the leader of Team Skull, Guzma. When he was young, both Guzma and Professor Kukui took the island challenge together, training under Hala. There, Guzma never learned how to use Z-moves properly and was always left in Kukui's shadow as a result. He eventually became disillusioned with Hala's teachings and left the island challenge, believing that he could become strong without the need of a Z-ring or Z-crystals. Despite his ruthless battling system, he runs away whenever he perceives an opponent to be a challenge, preferring to defeat weak opponents. Guzma enrolls in the Manalo Conference with the intention of destroying Kukui's dreams by becoming champion, and making sure another Pokemon League would never happen in Alola again. He makes it to the top 16 and comes up against Ash in the semi-finals, where he finally realizes his cowardice through only battling weak Pokemon. After Ash defeats him, Guzma considers disbanding Team Skull because he thinks his reputation is ruined. However, his own grunts praise him and want to learn to battle like him. With that said, Guzma is more misguided than he is evil, though he is placed lower because of his desire to get revenge on Kukui due to a long-standing grudge. Traveling from the main timeline to the alternate one, we have Cross. Cross is an arrogant trainer from Pokemon the movie I Choose You, who fills the same role as Damon in the original series, albeit a much bigger one. Much like Damon, he abandons his Charmander, and it waits for him despite the threat of dying in a rainstorm, and like in the original series, it ends up in Ash's care and evolves. Wanting to become the strongest trainer, he later overhears Ash and friends reading about the Rainbow Hero, a trainer given a rainbow wing by Ho-Oh, signifying they are worthy of battling it. Cross battles Ash for ownership of the wing, and upon losing it, steals it in a fit of jealousy, as Ho-Oh didn't give him a wing when he saw it, unlike Ash. After placing the wing on Rainbow Rock to try to summon Ho-Oh, it loses all of its color and the sky grows black due to the wickedness of his heart. Marshadow, who witnesses the battle between Ash and Cross, steals the rainbow wing itself, only to become corrupted by the evil tainting it. When Cross tries to use force to take the wing from Marshadow, it takes control of his Lycanroc and calls on it to attack its trainer. Cross manages to free it from Marshadow's control by telling it to remember the first day they met, and helps in fighting the mythical Pokemon's possessed army. After watching Ash battle Ho-Oh, Cross has a change of heart and promises Ash to another battle once he gets stronger. Cross was driven to do what he did only out of pure jealousy for Ash, and was later redeemed. However, he was much worse of a person than Guzma, hence his placement. But overall, there are far worse villains to come. Moving on to the true baddies, Viren is next. Rich, greedy, and egotistical, he's a businessman whose ventures are the only other things he cares about other than himself. And he's not afraid to cheat the system. In his first appearance, he is determined to buy Kiawe's family ranch and turn it into a resort hotel. After Kiawe and his family refuses his offer and defeats him in a battle, he sends over his henchmen anyway to destroy the land, and is only stopped when an officer, Jenny, came with a warrant for his arrest on charges of forging land ownership documents. In his second appearance, he attempts to buy the Battle Royale Dome using his fighters, the Revengers. After they're defeated by Ash in the Masked Royal, he challenges the two on his own with his Pangoro, but is, of course, defeated. When the Ultra Beast lands near the construction site for his proposed resort, he mistakes it for a statue stand and glues a golden statue of himself onto it, causing it to become angry, and is later saved by Ash and friends. To his credit though, Ultra Beasts are essentially aliens, so his mistake is understandable. That said, it certainly doesn't excuse his other actions. Prepare for trouble, because next is everyone's favorite Team Rocket trio, Jessie, James, and Meowth. The most recurring villains in the anime, they are the definition of iconic, with their motto, their balloon, their blast-offs, and their signature Wobbuffet.
Wobbuffet.
After seeing Pikachu's potential in the second episode, the three declare it their mission to capture it and take it to their boss, Giovanni. They almost always have a new trick up their sleeve when attempting to catch Pikachu, but fail every time. They're not afraid to capture other Pokemon they see fit for their boss, or even slow trainers down with gadgets to prevent them from saving their partners. On the contrary, they're often seen sitting on the sidelines, or sometimes even fighting alongside Ash and company if there is a greater evil around. In Spell of the Unknown, they even help save Ash's life because, to paraphrase Meowth, they wouldn't have a purpose if anything happened to Ash. Additionally, in just a random act of kindness, they purposefully create a faulty mech for Charizard to destroy in Charizard's burning ambitions, just so it could prove itself worthy of entering the valley. All in all, the Team Rocket trio is pretty bad, with their endless attempts of capturing Pikachu. But they have proved several times that they do have some good in their hearts. Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction has 4 villains, and 2 of them are Marilyn and Riot. They are both thieves that want to get rich by capturing Diancie and using its power to create diamonds. So they compete with each other along with fellow thieves, Argus and Millis, to capture it. Eventually, after Diancie becomes purified by Xerneas, the thieves fight over who would get it. Once they take their fighting to Yveltal's lair, it hatches from its cocoon and starts to rampage. Amidst the chaos, both Riot and Marilyn's Pokemon get turned into stone by Yveltal's Oblivion Wing. Seeing Marilyn saddened over her losses, Riot goes to comfort her, and they too get turned to stone just as they embrace one another. Xerneas soon brings them back to life, and the end credits show that they have both given up their lives of crime as Riot proposes to Marilyn. While wanting to capture a legendary or mythical Pokemon is a whole new level of bad, these two never succeeded and decided to choose marriage instead. From the first pair of thieves from this movie to the second, we have the father-daughter team of Argus and Millis Steel. Millis initially opens the door to the clock tower that Diancie is inside of to help it escape from Team Rocket. However, she only did this because she felt bad for it and is fully on the side of her father, Argus. They both fight over the possession of Diancie with Marilyn Riot in Yveltal's lair, leading to its awakening as we mentioned in our previous entry. During Yveltal's rampage, the Steels use their ship to attack it with missiles, which justifies their lower placement, just to be killed when it crashes. Xerneas brings them back to life, and like Marilyn and Riot, they also give up their lives of crime and open a chocolate shop, so another happy ending here as well. Next, we have the villain of the black and white movies, aka the 2 movies in one, Damon. 3 years prior, he traveled to the communities of his fellow descendants of the people of the Vale, hoping to get support to rebuild their kingdom, just to constantly get rejected. However, once he found the Dragon Stone, he managed to get Reshiram, or Zekrom depending on the movie, to travel by his side. This managed to garner the support of those who rejected him. When he returns home, Damon reveals his plans to borrow Victini's power to pilot the Sword of Vale back to the kingdom, so the rebuilding can commence. He then traps Victini in the castle, where a device funnels its power into the sword while the castle ascends into the sky. After Ash sees a vision that warns Victini never to let the castle be moved again, or else the destructive dragon force will be unleashed. Exactly what is happening now. He allies himself with the dragon opposite Damon's. Damon's dragon then destroys the machine holding Victini, and both dragons blow away the clouds to show Damon the damage he is causing. Feeling remorse, he asks the dragons to help stop the damage that is happening. Determined to rebuild the kingdom in which his ancestors lived, Damon's attempts in doing so were heavily misguided. He's placed here because he does realize that he went too far, and even saves Ash's life, while almost sacrificing his own at one point. Moving on to Jirachi Wishmaker's Butler. Butler was once a Team Magma scientist who obtained a fossilized part of Groudon in an attempt to recreate it. When showcasing it in front of the Team Magma Council, his machine exploded, leading to his firing. Now as a traveling magician with his girlfriend Diane, he plans to enact his revenge on Team Magma once he finds out Jirachi has awakened from its cocoon. He captures Jirachi in order to absorb power from the Millennium Comet, so as to power up his machine once again.
Now, Jirachi, get me the energy that I need.
Creating Meta Groudon, a fake Groudon that immediately starts destroying everything around it. Butler realizes the error in his ways after Diane gets absorbed by the monster in an attempt to save him, and helps Ash, Max, and Jirachi reverse what he had done. With Butler's situation being similar to Damon's, we have to place him right after, mainly because he did not have good intentions unlike Damon. Next up we have Team Magma leader Maxie and Team Aqua leader Archie. We put them together because we can't talk about one without mentioning the other. Much like his game counterpart, Maxie's goal is to use Groudon's power to expand landmass using the blue orb to control both it and Kyogre. Team Aqua admin Shelly works undercover as a Team Magma grunt to free Kyogre from captivity, sending it on a rampage and causing Maxie to lose the blue orb, while Archie takes control over it with the red orb. In actuality, Archie is possessed by the orb and intends to sink all of Monsu Island even though many of his men are still there. After Pikachu frees Groudon from its captivity, it starts fighting with Kyogre, trying to stop it from sinking the land. And with help from Ash and company, Kyogre is defeated, with Maxie realizing the error of his ways via Lance's speech and Archie having forgotten what happened after being possessed. The two go on their separate ways. Both are bad in their own right and cancel each other out perfectly with their actions, making them both equally evil. However, after the chaos ended, they more or less became changed men, which is what leaves their ranking right here. The president of Macrocosmos, Rose, is next. Rose is adamant about keeping the Galar region prosperous by taking an eternal energy source in Galar particles. He claims that this prosperity is what caused him to rise out of poverty, and he became willing to do anything to keep the region this way for at least 1,000 years. After an overload of energy gets released from the energy plant, Pokemon start Dynamaxing uncontrollably around the region, mirroring the Darkest Day, which Rose believes will be resurrected in the form of Eternatus, which would produce an infinite amount of particles to provide Galar with millennia worth of energy.
It's all for the sake of Galar's future.
He also believes this would prevent tragedies like the death of his father in a coal mine collapse, and he purposefully sponsored Leon as a modern-day hero figure who would catch Eternatus and keep it as a power source. Leon refused and would only catch it to seal it away, which Ash eventually did once Rose was defeated. While Rose had seemingly good intentions, he didn't care about the welfare of the Pokemon Dynamaxing against their own will, and was willing to let them destroy the entire Galar region to carry out his plans. He also didn't care about the welfare of Eternatus, as keeping it as nothing but a power source, likely for millennia, would surely make it miserable. The fact that his heart seemed to be in the right spot prevents him from dropping any lower. Next up are the two Pokemon hunters from The Power of Us. These guys see news coverage of a rare Pokemon living in the mountains, and they take the opportunity to go there and find it the next day. When they arrived, they already captured a Sentret, but were looking for a bigger target to make a profit. When they attempt to capture a Teddiursa and a Ditto, Zeraora intervenes, injuring itself when trying to fend off the hunter's Pokemon. Everyone is saved and the hunters flee once Ash and friends arrive, however. These two hunters only appear briefly in the movie, and as a result, they don't have much development, so we have to place them here. But since they are Pokemon hunters with dark intentions, they definitely are really bad. After Mewtwo and Meowth, we have our third and final Pokemon with Malamar. Malamar has a mysterious, unknown background, and being part psychic type, it is more intelligent than most humans.
I think I'll make you my servant right here and now.
It sets up a hideout at a radio observatory and hypnotizes an Officer Jenny, naming her Madam X, and using her as a puppet to communicate with humans. When Ash and company come to investigate the observatory, it hypnotizes all but Ash and Meowth, and hopes to use Pikachu in leading its Pokemon army in its quest for world domination. After its plans here were crashed, it subsequently appears later with two other Malamar, with plans to distort the world using energy crystals, which they get from top scientists. With the help of other Wild Inkay and Malamar, with some help, the three are defeated and claim they are headed to the future. Malamar is the only Pokemon that is truly evil, but because of how vague its means of distorting the world were presented, we can't place it any lower. The pirate captain from Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, the Phantom, is up next. A stereotypical pirate, the Phantom would definitely be in our top 3 if we were ranking these villains in terms of goofiness. And like most pirates, he likes going after rare and valuable treasure. In his case, he steals the Manaphy egg, as that would lead him to his initial goal in finding the Sea Crown. Once that fails and the now hatched egg lands in the possession of Ash and friends, he starts to track them down, eventually reaching the Sea Crown and the Sea Temple, and starts to rip off its crystals one by one. However, Pokemon Ranger Ranger Jackie puts most of the crystals back on, but one falls in the ensuing chaos, causing the temple to sink. The Phantom escapes and steals Manaphy once the temple is saved. Ash takes Manaphy from him, but once the Phantom falls in the water, he uses supersonic waves in his submarine to inflict pain on all the surrounding Pokemon, including Kyogre. After Manaphy uses Heart Swap to restore the Pokemon back to normal, they destroy his submarine in retaliation, eventually leading to the Phantom's arrest. Since the Phantom only wants Manaphy temporarily to steal the Sea Crown, we've ranked him as less evil than other villains who want legendary and mythical Pokemon permanently. Next we have Dr. Zager. Zager is one of Team Rocket's scientists that leads many of Jesse, James, and Meowth's missions in Unova, often giving them various machines and weapons. As a direct antagonist, he shuts down the Driftvale drawbridge and attempts to capture the subway containing stolen Pokemon, which is stopped by Ash and Pikachu. Zager's main goal, however, is to use a time gate inside Twist Mountain to go to the past and steal many prehistoric Pokemon.
Ancient and undiscovered Pokemon, beware!
To achieve this, he uses Dream Energy in conjunction with electrically charged rocks to create his own fossil restoration experiment, and restores a Tortuga from a cover fossil with help from the machine. He nearly succeeds, but fails to hold the time gate open using Tortuga's energy. We don't see too much of Zager, and he would have played a much larger role if the Team Rocket vs Team Plasma episodes ended up airing. But since those episodes were scrapped out of continuity, Zager can't be placed any lower as he possibly would have been. Next are the Team Rocket trio's more capable rivals, Cassidy and Butch. These two usually run more successful schemes compared to their more recurring counterparts, as stated before. Their schemes include, but are not limited to, operating 2 fake breeding centers to capture Pokemon en masse, using a Drowsy to hypnotize Pokemon to turn against their trainers, and running a fake tournament to capture trainers' Pokemon. Their most nefarious deed, however, was capturing a baby Lugia and its mother under the command of Dr. Namba. Since these two captured a mother and child legendary Pokemon along with regular Pokemon, we're placing them a spot lower than Zager. And by extension, next we have Dr. Namba, the head of most of Butch and Cassidy's missions. He is one of Team Rocket's top scientists. He's the mastermind behind the Lugia mission, where he gives the duo the Rage Crown, a device that would increase their Pokemon's power to dangerous levels, and is also used by him in an energy amplification and manipulation experiment. He also commands Butch and Cassidy to capture the Cerulean Gym's 2 Love Disc, as well as a Hippowdon so he could research the sand from it. He is naturally placed lower than his 2 constituents because he is the one that commands nearly all of their missions. Not to mention, he's done far worse, if his part in the Lugia mission is any indication. Next up is Matori. From her first appearance at the end of the Diamond and Pearl series, Matori only acted as Giovanni's secretary. However, her role expanded significantly in the Sun and Moon series, where she leads a special unit of Team Rocket called the Matori Matrix, whose mission is to travel to Alola and capture Necrozma. Once they arrive, they become lethargic, as did all the other adults in the region, due to Necrozma's power. However, this doesn't stop them from trapping a Necrozma-possessed Lunala in an electrified net, which it shortly breaks out of. They soon catch Lunala and Nebby in another net, which is quickly broken by Ash. Upon the legendary Pokemon and Ash and friends entering the Ultra Wormhole, the Matori Matrix is stopped by Tapu Koko, which makes Matori call on her fellow Team Rocket members to retreat. She later takes her crew to Sinnoh's resort area to steal as many Pokemon as they could, including Pikachu. But of course, this is ultimately thwarted. What justifies Matori's placement is that she captures 3 legendary Pokemon compared to the 2 Lugia in the previous entries, but her mission is cut quite short when compared to others going forward. Team Plasma's leader, Ghetsis, is up next. Prior to the events of the anime, Team Plasma helped Pokemon that were abused by humans. At the same time, Ghetsis was raising his 3 adopted children, son N and daughters Anthea and Concordia, in isolation, only allowing contact with themselves and the Pokemon previously mentioned. When N became an adult, he was summoned by a ceremony in which he would become Team Plasma's king. However, this ceremony was interrupted by Reshiram, who sensed Ghetsis' Ghetsis' corruption and destroyed Team Plasma's mansion. In the present day, Ghetsis summons Reshiram with the Light Stone, and using Colress's Pokemon control device, takes control of it and uses its power against his enemies.
Reshiram is now completely under our control.
Thanks to Pikachu, Reshiram is freed from Ghetsis' control, and it destroys Team Plasma's aircraft, leading to the arrest of Ghetsis and other higher-ups by Luka. With using the Pokemon control device on Reshiram, plus the abuse he put his children through early on in their lives, we think it's safe to rank him here. Now on to another evil team scientist. Now we have Colress. Colress is the inventor of the Pokemon control device, which uses electromagnetic waves that resonate with smaller devices on Pokemon's foreheads to make them stronger, more aggressive, and subservient to their user. He tests out the device by controlling wild Pokemon in the area, as well as Pikachu, and later uses an upgraded version on a Hexorus and Iris's Dragonite. And as stated in the previous entry, he and Ghetsis also use the machine to control Reshiram and force it to destroy Team Plasma's enemies.
I'm incredible beyond words!
Since Colress is the one who helped in kickstarting Ghetsis' goals, and is the creator of the device Team Plasma intended on using in the first place, it only makes sense that we rank him lower. Moving on to Lawrence III. An avid collector of rare artifacts, Lawrence reads an ancient prophecy that is passed down each generation on the island, which reads that a chosen one needs to bring 3 treasures from 3 islands to tame the beast of the sea. Lawrence reads this and mistakenly thinks he is the chosen one, believing the 3 treasures are Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos. He sets out to capture them in order to draw out and capture the beast of the sea, whom he thinks is Lugia. In his large airship, he manages to capture Moltres and Zapdos in large electrical devices, just for Ash, the real chosen one, to free them before Lawrence could do the same to Articuno. As the 3 birds begin to fight, Lugia shows up to stop the fighting and destroy his airship, while helping Ash tame the real beast of the sea, a giant underwater current. As we'll see going forward, capturing legendary Pokemon is not a particularly good deed, and while previous entries did the same, they later redeemed themselves to a certain extent. And still, Lawrence is relatively tame compared to other villains to come. The leader of Team Rocket himself, Giovanni, is next. The original gym leader of the Viridian City Gym, he is usually a mysterious figure, most often seen on video calls. He usually has his grunts do everything for him, mostly stealing and capturing Pokemon and running illegal operations. However, he is fully capable of doing things on his own, such as using Mewtwo simply as a tool to aid Team Rocket in stealing Pokemon and to defeat opponents in his gym, including Gary Oak. In Mewtwo Returns, he seeks out Mewtwo again and threatens to use its cloned Pokemon friends in experiments as a means to recapture it. At one point, he becomes so displeased with Jesse, James, and Meowth's failures that he gives them a fake assignment to an old blimp, hoping that it would crash so he could collect its insurance policy. In Unova, he leads Operation Tempest, a mission to capture Meloetta, and use it to take control of Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus with the revealed glass. When Meloetta breaks free, Giovanni looks directly into the revealed glass, becoming possessed, and he attempts to destroy Unova, only to be brought back to his senses by Jesse, James, and Meowth. Calling Giovanni evil is an understatement. As being Team Rocket's boss, he is the reason why Team Rocket even exists in the first place. He's also the reason why Mewtwo hated humans for a long time, not to mention the fact that he didn't even care about one of his loyal trios being killed in a faulty blimp. The Mirage Master, Dr. Young, is next. He is an associate of Professor Oak and the inventor of the Mirage system, and comes across as a friendly guy at first. The Mirage system is able to create any Pokemon and make them use any attack. His alter ego, the Mirage Master, later appears and carries both him and Oak off. But unbeknownst to Ash and friends, the Mirage Master at that time was a fake, and Young dressed up as the real one from behind. He uses his Mirage Pokemon to capture Pikachu and scan its memories, as well as accessing Oak's lab database and hacking Pokemon centers worldwide. He uses all of this to form the quote-unquote perfect Pokemon, in this case a Mirage Mewtwo, and plans to unleash it onto the world. Demonstrating its power, he uses it to destroy all the other Mirage Pokemon and attempts to kill Oak with it, summoning other Mirage legendary Pokemon as well. Just as he takes the upper hand, Mirage Mew comes in and makes Pikachu able to defeat Mirage Mewtwo and destroy the Mirage system. Wanting to take over the world is one thing, but hacking Pokemon centers that nurse Pokemon back to health and nearly killing Professor Oak is another. The future shows us that Gring's Cut-Eye is next. When he was younger, he traveled to Crown City to learn about its rich history. He became particularly intrigued by Celebi and hoped to use its time-traveling abilities for his own means. When trying and ultimately failing to capture Celebi, he absorbed one of its time ripples via his capture device, which destroyed all plant life in Crown City, but also granted him the power to see into the future. In present day, he is a successful businessman, but with his power starting to fade, he returns to Crown City to find and absorb another time ripple. He puts this plan into motion by blackmailing Zoroark into using its illusionary powers, disguised as the legendary Suicune, Entei, and Raikou, to attack the city by threatening the safety of its child. Editing Zoroark's powers to make it appear it was truly destroying the city, he ordered the city's evacuation so he could have nobody get in his way to find the time ripple. He attempted to absorb the ripple as he did all those years ago, just to realize that it was an illusion created by Zoroark, as his illusion canceller was bit off earlier. Not long after, Zoroark and the real shiny legendary beasts ganged up on him, eventually leading to his arrest. Forcing a town to evacuate under a lie so you could get away with your deeds, and almost killing a baby Pokemon, is what solidifies his place here. Next up, we have Pokemon heroes Annie and Oakley. These sisters are members of Team Rocket who are assigned a mission from Giovanni to activate the weapon called the Defense Mechanism of Altumare, or DMA, and need the Soul Dew as well as Latios and Latia to do so. While the DMA was initially created to save Altumare from raging waters and fossil Pokemon, which were both stopped by shrinking the city's water level, Annie and Oakley plan to use it to do the opposite. Oakley is the brains of the operation, doing most of the technical work, and while Annie is also on board, she cares a little more about fashion. The two end up capturing Latios, and the Soul Dew activating the DMA, now controlled by Oakley, and shutting down the whole city.
That's right, we don't want any intruders.
After failing to catch Latia, Oakley makes one last attempt at it, almost drowning it, Ash and Pikachu. Latios gets weaker and weaker as Oakley keeps the machine in her control, and stops when Latia gets her brother out. However, with the Soul Dew almost destroyed, the machine goes out of control, enveloping both sisters and shrinking the water. A giant wave then comes, about to destroy the city, and Latios sacrifices himself to become a new Soul Dew and keep the city safe again. What prevents Annie from ranking any worse is that she aided her sister in her initial mission even though she later appeared to think that Oakley went too far. 3 living beings almost drowned, a city got shut down and almost destroyed, and a Pokemon had to sacrifice its own life in order to save it. That's pretty bad. The leader of Team Galactic, Cyrus, is up next. With the intention of creating a new world, he researches Pokemon mythology under a friendly businessman persona, while the other leaders steal the lustrous and adamant orbs behind the scenes. He watches Hunter J's mission to capture the Lake Guardians and supervises Charon's experiment to control them with the red chain. Later, using their energies to power the orbs, to summon Dialga and Palkia. He forces the 2 legendary Pokemon to create a portal into a new dimension, and immediately turns on his team's admins, wanting the new world all to himself, slowly getting drawn into the portal as it fades. Cyrus is willing to do anything to get his new world, even if he loses all those that care about him, and stops at nothing to harm any Pokemon, albeit usually indirectly. He also doesn't seem to care whether the real world is destroyed or not. Next we have Charon. He is the scientist from Team Galactic who is central in Cyrus's plan in creating a new world. He is responsible for inventing the Red Chain, and implants a virus in one of its pieces that erases the entire international police database. While he could have had more screen time, he's placed below Cyrus because he made his plans come into fruition. It doesn't help that he was aware of Cyrus's true intentions, as if he didn't keep that a secret, Cyrus could have been stopped. Moving on to Hunter J. As her name implies, Jay is a Pokemon hunter, stealing any Pokemon she can for her clients in exchange for a large profit. She is ruthless in her methods of capturing Pokemon, commonly using her Ariados' threads to tie people trying to stop her. She commonly uses a device to turn Pokemon, including Pikachu and Meowth in one instance, into stone, making it easier to capture them. Not to mention her Salamence and Drapion are so powerful to the point of being almost unbeatable. Jay is not afraid to take on legendary Pokemon either, as she wakes up Regigigas and attempts to turn it into stone, which is thankfully thwarted by Frontier Brain Brandon. She's also hired by Team Galactic to capture the Lake Guardians, which she does succeed at, but her ship gets hit by a future side attack, plummeting her and her crew to their deaths underwater. Jay has complete and utter disregard for any life, both Pokemon and human, and it can't be overstated how much she's deserving of this placement. Finally, we get to our worst 5, starting out with the Iron-Masked Marauder. An elite officer of Team Rocket, his goal is to capture the mythical Pokemon Celebi and give it to Giovanni. He has Dark Balls in his possession, which can capture any Pokemon even if owned by another trainer, and turn them evil, as well as skyrocket their power levels. This is shown in full force when he captures a Pokemon Poacher's Tyranitar. The Marauder catches Celebi inside the claws of his mecha and captures it in a Dark Ball, hurting Ash as he tries to take it away from him. As he became impressed with the corrupted Celebi's power to attack wild Pokemon, he uses it to absorb the surrounding area and polluting the forest in Lake of Life, while revealing his intentions to seize power from Giovanni and take over the world.
I can rule Team Rocket and the whole world if I want to!
Celebi nearly dies once it escapes his grasp, and after it recovers in the Lake of Life, he makes one last attempt, but Ash and Pikachu grab onto his leg as he jetpacks into the sky, making him fall to a thunderbolt. Like Jay before him, the Marauder has zero regard for any form of life, as evidenced by him nearly destroying a whole ecosystem, and almost killing Celebi. Not to mention his unconventional and cruel means of trying to take over Team Rocket. Up next is the Volcanian in the Mechanical Marvels, Alva. A counselor to the Azoth Kingdom, he is an expert in arcane science and, unbeknownst to everyone, save for the princess of the kingdom, is plotting to seize control of the kingdom for himself. To aid in this, he has his own Pokemon army, which he can forcefully Mega Evolve using a device he invented called the Mega Wave device. He also needs Majerna for this operation, and leads an attack on the Nebel Plateau, home to Majerna, Volcanion, and many other wild Pokemon, trapping them along with Ash and electrical machines. He opens Majerna up, killing it by removing its soul heart, and using it to power up the weapons in his flying fortress. His attack on the plateau is eventually stopped. Ash removes the soul heart and revives Majerna, and Ash's Greninja stops Alva's escape, sending him falling into the forest. He is basically the Iron-Masked Marauder times 10, forcing Mega Evolution onto his Pokemon while not caring about their well-being, and actually killing Majerna to almost destroy a whole ecosystem. If that isn't enough, he keeps Meowth hostage so he could translate what Majerna is saying. But with that said, our bronze medal of evil goes to Lysandra, the leader of Team Flare. At first, Lysandra comes off as a kind, non-threatening individual in the Mega Evolution Special, but his true colors show in the X, Y, and Z arc when his plans on using Zygarde to take control of Kalos come into full force. After Ash and Elaine's battle at the conference ends, the power of Z2 brings all of Kalos under his control, and he televises a message that he will create a new world for Team Flare. As Squishy joins Z2 in destroying Kalos, Lysandra tries to control Ash and Greninja so Ash would become the guide of the new world, but the two use their bond phenomenon to break free. As the two Zygarde are freed from his control and he is defeated by Ash, he jumps off the tower in one last attempt at his plans, planning to use the giant rock to form a copy of Zygarde, which would wipe out all life by engulfing the Anastar City sundial. He revives the rock, just to die in the hands of a core enforcer from the two Zygarde, torturing and controlling two legendary Pokemon and forcing them to destroy a region, and eventually the world, is really truly deplorable, which completely justifies his earning of the bronze medal. The silver medal of evil has to go to Zero, formerly a student of Newton Graceland in researching the reverse world, Zero became estranged from him once Newton deleted the design plans for the Mega Rig, a machine that would copy Giratina's powers. Zero wanted the machine despite it harming Giratina, so he reconstructed it, setting out to capture Giratina for himself. And as a brief summary on how the reverse world works, it mirrors the real world, so each area has a real world equivalent. Likewise, pollution is kept out of the real world by being absorbed into the reverse world. And Zero also wants to rid it of pollution to punish the real world for tarnishing it. As Giratina was trapped in the reverse world after a battle with Dialga, Zero then started tracking down Shaman, who helped Dialga escape. He eventually captures Shaman, forcing it to use Seed Flare out of its fear of Giratina, and opening a new portal for it to escape to the real world. Once in the real world, he captured Giratina and began copying its power. But the Mega Rig was eventually shut down by Ash, Dawn, and Newton. Despite this, Zero still manages to wield Giratina's powers, going into the reverse world and smashing ice pillars as he grows more and more insane.
No one gets in my way!
As these pillars are connected to a glacier in the real world, the glacier starts moving towards a nearby village, which would have been destroyed if it wasn't for Ash, Shaman, and Giratina crashing Zero's aircraft. Zero would have likely ended the world in a slow, painful manner, as opposed to Lysandra, who probably would have ended it fairly quickly. With Zero's method being more likely to cause people and Pokemon suffering slow, painful deaths, we had to give him the Silver Medal of Evil. But that takes us, finally, to our Gold Medal of Evil, which has to go to Marcus. In this guy's case, we have to go to the past. A man named Deimos once saw Arceus almost sacrificing itself to save the world from meteors. It lost all of its plates, which are its life force. Deimos returned one back to Arceus, giving it strength to get the others back. As thanks, Arceus gave Deimos the Jewel of Life, to turn Mechana Town from a wasteland into a thriving settlement. Deimos promised Arceus that he would return the jewel at the next solar eclipse, but his assistant, Marcus, feared that the town would revert back to its original state, and overthrew him as a result. He then had his Bronzong hypnotize Deimos, betraying Arceus by giving it a fake jewel. Marcus's massive Pokemon army then attacked it, but Arceus's counterattack ended up killing them both, while Mechana Town crumbled. Over time, Marcus would fade into obscurity, while Deimos would be labeled as the traitor who made Arceus hate people, ensuring that it would take its revenge onto the world. Ash, Dawn, and Brock arrive in present day and meet Deimos' descendant, Sheena. As the prophecy stated, Arceus returns and starts rampaging, and Dialga sends the four back in time. There, Sheena tells Marcus his fate, and after learning that Deimos did not use silver water on Arceus, he tells her that he would have her return the Jewel of Life, just for him to remove it from his staff before giving it to her. When Arceus arrives, Sheena opens the empty staff and sees the jewel in Marcus's possession. Marcus then orders his Pokemon army to attack and pours silver water onto Arceus, trapping it like concrete and nearly killing it with his Pokemon's attacks. This verge of death causes a shift in the timeline that almost causes Ash and company to fade out of existence. However, Deimos manages to give Arceus enough strength to reabsorb the Jewel of Life, saving everyone's life. And the ongoing silver water causes the temple to crumble, making Marcus fall. Setting up an innocent man to make him seem like the bad guy is one thing, but when you take in the fact that Marcus almost killed Pokemon's equivalent to God, and almost made our heroes disappear forever as a result, it should be a no-brainer as to why he earns the Gold Medal of Evil. Whew, it's a lot of villains. So with that said, let's wrap things up with some medals. We'll be awarding these to the sinners who deserve them the most. The Darwin Medal will be awarded to the Team Rocket trio, as they never learn from their mistakes, no matter how many times their schemes have failed. While we're at it, we'll also give them the Sloth Medal, as they've been seen slacking off on their work quite a lot in recent years. The Pride Medal has to go to Viren. I mean, he built a statue of himself, so need we say more? The Wrath Medal will be given to the gold medalist himself, Marcus. This one was probably obvious. His fear of a being that is literally God getting its life force back led him to almost murder it. The Gluttony Medal will be given to Argus Steel. His love for chocolate is relatable to almost anyone. The Envy Medal will be given to Cross. His jealousy of Ash's strength led him to poisoning the Rainbow Wing. The Greed Medal will be given to Lawrence III. The fact that he loved rare artifacts led him to capture the legendary birds for his collection, after misinterpreting a prophecy. Finally, the Lust Medal has to go to Cyrus. He had an intense, almost unhealthy desire for a new world, and wanted it all to himself in the end. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Make sure to hit that notification bell for your daily dose of anime, and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite anime. Thanks for watching.